Will Ferrell's entire comedy persona is effectively based around the inescapable fact that at first glance he appears so completely ordinary, like the most normal-seeming factory-issue regular guy, that it's honestly kind of not normal at all and therefore somehow innately funny. Both in the actual where the hell did they find an actual completely average default factory setting white dude sense, and also in the sense of every slight deviation he makes from normalcy becoming a hilarious exaggeration. Now, this has enabled Ferrell to carve out a unique movie star niche in films with a successful formula wherein he portrays a quintessential embodiment of an offbeat, but not so offbeat as to be unrecognizable, profession and/or subculture, popular local news anchor, sports coach, semi-professional athlete, NASCAR driver, male figure skater, caricatured into a doltish man-child version of the Rocky underdog comeback narrative. It works for him. Eurovision Song Contest, The Story of Fire Saga, which is allowed to sport its incredibly awkward but apparently copyright mandatory title because it's a Netflix movie and everyone is just going to find it by keyword actor headshot or forgetting to hit the home button anyway, is then another one of these, this time casting Ferrell and Rachel McAdams as a mutually talented but also mutually ridiculous Icelandic musical duo with dreams of representing their country as competitors in the Eurovision contest. If you happen to be an American who has not heard of Eurovision, it's kind of like an international American Idol crossed with like the Olympics, but also Street Fighter and also Drag Race, yet somehow less substantive but kind of more entertaining than that sounds. Anyway, if you're thinking, wait, is this one of those things like the World Cup that a lot of Europe gets like way too into because a ton of the countries still hate each other but they don't really go to war anymore, so instead they just do this? Yeah, it's another one of those. So okay, the ideal Venn diagram American audience for this here is mainstream normie enough to laugh at jokes about Eurovision itself being a tacky, aesthetically absurd spectacle, but also cosmopolitan enough to have heard of Eurovision and recognized Ferrell and McAdams' titular electro, techno, folk rock, dance, fantasy, power ballad nonsense act Fire Saga as a fairly on-the-nose parody of the kind of presentations that often grace its stage from the colder climates. Plot-wise, well, there's a little too much of it, and it's a little too long because it's both a Netflix movie and there's a bunch of actual musicians and actors who can actually sing, in the cast, and they want to give them lots of uninterrupted room to do so, with the main thrust you probably already figured out. Fire Saga are talented, starry-eyed dreamers, but they're also goofy idiots who haven't exactly figured out that they've also been in love forever, and they have a terrible luck and played-for-laughs deep-seated psychological issues of their own that constantly cause hilarious accidents to befall them, scuttling their dreams and making everyone, even their friends and family, laugh at them and tell them they should really have given up at this point. But a series of outlandish plot contrivances leads to them being the only available Icelandic musicians capable of competing in this particular year's contest, so their government reluctantly packs them off to the big show, wherein the equally expected temptations of small-town innocence by big-city showbiz plot plays out, complete with romantic music industry rivals for both main characters and the sowing of self-doubt via Ferrell's need for Fire Saga to conform to the big splashy Eurovision style, and McAdams' sense that she has an even stronger talent of her own yet to be fully realized, and also a structurally necessary villain conspiracy plot that's otherwise dispensable and telegraphed so early that it feels like it might almost have some actual satirical teeth and then doesn't. But ultimately, as it rounded into the point where it would otherwise have been getting too long, it started dawning on me that I didn't really care. The shagginess of the structure and the overall looseness of the thing weren't really much of a distraction from its better qualities, not only because it's a Netflix movie and you can just pause it whatever, so what even is an act structure at this point? The music is honestly really good, while also being sharp send-ups of the various genres and styles in question, and the general vibe of the homogenous Eurovision globalized pop aesthetic. The characters are sincere and well acted despite everyone being an over-the-top caricature, and it's especially fantastic to see McAdams isn't being forced to be the straight woman to Ferrell's madman. Both halves of Fire Saga are equally dumb, earnest, silly, absurd characters, and it's fun to watch her and Ferrell one-up each other across the movie. And it's ultimately helped a lot by having a lot of the same Anchorman, Talladega Nights, Casademi Padre quasi-improvisational gag style, where every time it seems to be getting just a little too conventional or formulaic, it might be grating instead of easygoing, they throw in some kind of absurd tone shift or sudden random plot development that's mostly enough to shake things up. So I'm going to call this one like a 7 out of 10. I don't think it's a comedy classic, but I was, momentarily distracted from the soul-crushing weight of incomprehensible dread that has consumed the waking life of all sentient persons for the last 4 years or thereabouts, so that's one more week down, I suppose.